Welcome to Mrs. Pennington's baby development. So you're 17 weeks pregnant. Now what? Well, congratulations. We're getting further along in our pregnancy. We're almost halfway. So what you've done now, you almost have to do again and then you're done. So last week I talked about labor and mentally preparing yourself to be able to push yourself to get through this. So let's talk about contractions, what they are. So when I was in the childbirth classes, they kind of tried to explain what they were and prepare us for them, but I didn't really get it. So let me see if I can help you. So just imagine it was early on. Contractions, it's like a baby squeezing your arm. That's what it feels like. Like imagine a little baby hand just squeezing your little arm. That's what early contractions feel like. And those can go on for several hours. Eventually they'll pick up a bit. So then imagine like a 2-year-old squeezing your arm. You notice it a bit more, but it's just 2-year-old. So it's okay. A couple hours later, imagine like a 6-year-old. 6-year-old has a bit of strength. 6-year-old squeezing your arm. Now, when this little person is squeezing your arm, it's real slow. It starts out like light pressure, and you're like, oh, I can feel something's gonna happen. Slowly it gets tighter, and then it hits a little squeezy point, and then it like slowly lets up. That's a contraction. So what your body is doing is baby is head down, and baby, the body is literally like squeezing baby out. Like your muscles are like pushing together and helping push baby out and down. Baby too is also helping. Baby's feet are actually up towards your diaphragm and pushing down. As your body and muscles squeeze, baby too is like pushing him or herself down. Now baby's strong too. So baby is pushing down and your body is just slowly like pushing together, and then baby is moving down is your body and muscles kind of push. Now the first one, your body's just kind of figuring it out and you're figuring it out, so it takes a bit longer. And then the second or third, your body's like, I know what to do. I know what's going on here. So they like push baby out a little bit quicker and more efficiently because your body's figured it out and your brain has figured it out, which is the huge bit. Like you know what's going on. Like at first it starts out just a little eensy bit of pain. Eventually there's like a 10-year-old who's got a bit more strength that is like slowly, always start out slow, like gently squeezing, and then like 10-year-old strength, and then slowly letting up. So, that's a couple hours. Now with your first, it'll definitely be a couple hours for each stage, and they get a little bit closer together. So at first they're like my first ones were like half an hour apart of like a little infant squeeze. Like it was nothing, but it was half an hour apart. And then as you go on, hours later, they're like 15 minutes apart. Hours later, they're like 10 minutes apart. As they get closer together, they also get stronger. So eventually you got like a 15-year-old who has a bit of strength that's like, starts out real slow and gentle and then squeezes hard. And then they let off. Then you got like a 20-year-old who like is holding on. They like squeeze tight and then like, and that hurts a bit. Like you're like, hey, I can feel this now. This is hurting. So this is closer to the hard labor where that was really intense. Like that really hurt, and you have to just focus. To just get in a good, like, they're coming on, and you just have to focus. If you're, especially in your first and you're tired, you can definitely lay down in your bed on your side, a couple pillows between your knees, because your hips are really expanded, and like you're expanding down there, like you need something between your legs, which even now, like when you're laying down to sleep, it's really comfortable to have something between your legs, but especially during labor. Lots of pillows. Like ask for more pillows. You want like 10 pillows in your room. Seriously. I at least 5 or 6 minimum. So that's helpful, like between your legs, and then also on the bed. We'll talk about birthing position in a minute, my favorite. So as you go through, like these contractions are getting like more painful and more intense. Actually, like imagine some huge like bodybuilder wrestler guy comes in, right? And he squeezes your arm. Now he doesn't break your arm, but it hurts. Like he like still is gentle at the beginning, real gentle at the beginning, and then squeezes the heck. That's hard, intense labor, that this is real, baby. And then he is nice. He gently lets up. So in the end, it's this real gentle letting up. Towards the end, you can move a little bit, but don't try to move in there. Like, get in a good position. If you're in a bad position, too bad. Don't move. Just sit there. Now, you might notice now that you're having some Braxton Hicks. And I notice these come on now. And I didn't notice as much in my first pregnancy, but I think I didn't realize what they were. But now, like, let's say you're taking a walk and you haven't drank enough water, then you'll get kind of like in between your hip and your belly button, you'll feel like this twinge there. That, like, it's a bit painful. Like, that hurt. Like, that, what is that? It's like this tightening, and it's just because you haven't drank enough water. If you're feeling that, you drink some water, and or you need to empty your bladder. So sometimes you just feel like this, like tight, and sometimes it's down low, like between your hip, like low navel area. You'll feel like this tight there, this tightness there, and that sometimes it's like, oh, I need to go empty my bladder, because sometimes they'll come on like when your bladder's full for whatever reason, or you just need to drink water. That's a good indication that you need to drink some water. So another thing is, when you spend time with your husband, special moments at night when the kids are asleep, sometimes you'll get a contraction after that. I don't know why, but it's very common. So you spend that special fun time with your husband. Yay, that was really fun. But ow, like now I get a contraction following. What is that? I don't know what that is, but that is common, especially towards the end of your pregnancy. Now, I didn't notice it with the first pregnancy or two, but now I notice it, especially like 30 plus weeks. Spend this time with your husband, and then you're like, I don't know if that was worth it. Like, this is really painful. You get like this sharp, intense contraction. Again, don't move. Just lay there or sit there and be like, and it'll go away. It'll like crescendo and then go away. So I don't know why that is. Also, if this is not your first pregnancy, after you have baby, when baby is nursing, you will get these intense, painful contractions a couple days after delivery, and that is your uterus shrinking back down. Not with your first. I don't know why, but thankfully not with your first. Any past first, yeah. Now, definitely after baby is born, do the breast crawl. So they like have baby lay on your stomach and like lay in there, and baby like moves up and will like shimmy to one side, and then like you like kind of help them, and then they latch on. That's awesome. So statistics say like if baby does that for some weird reason, if baby does that little thing where they crawl up to you and then attach on, then they don't have any problems latching. And if they don't, then they tend to have more problems latching. I don't know why this is. Also, you have to realize if you've had a lot of medication for your delivery, like I had a friend that tried a natural labor, went a really long time, didn't end up birthing baby. Yeah, they eventually, she had epidural, kept going, wasn't progressing. They put her on Pitocin. Now, a lot of times when you want Pitocin, that makes your contractions shorter and quicker together, and baby doesn't have enough time to breathe. So it's pretty common once you go on Pitocin, it often leads to a C-section because the contractions are quicker and closer together, and baby doesn't get enough breathe time. Like baby's heart rate is dropping, we'll have to do a C-section. So that happened to her. So she had quite a bit of medication throughout her labor and delivery, and then she also had to have a C-section, so she had more pain medication. You have to realize baby gets all that too. When baby's born, they're going to be pretty tired, pretty groggy, pretty out of it for a while. She had a really hard time, baby, figuring out how to latch. So give yourself some grace if that's been your story for whatever reason, but still try to do that breast crawl if baby's not too exhausted. Now, this is something that you might talk about when you're going to midwifery appointments and your midwife's like, yeah, that sounds great. Or your doctor's like, yeah, that sounds great. They don't remember in labor. Just so you know, like everything you might talk to them about that you want to do, they have a lot of patience. They're human. You need someone else that's going to push for this, or you're going to have to remember to push for it yourself. And you're going to have to ask them for things too, because they have a lot going on. And they have a lot of charting they have to do, and they might have other patients. Just don't sit back and labor or after labor and be like, why didn't this take place? We talked about this, because they forget. They've got a lot going on. They're human. So you have to speak up for yourself and be an advocate and be like, hey, I want to do the breast crawl. Can we do it now? So with cutting the umbilical cord, wait until it turns white, all the blood's out. If they don't do that, blood just shoots everywhere. So with the pregnancy right before this one, she was like a little bit worried about things, and she was like a little bit of a stressor, and she wanted to get things along. And so after baby's born, she cut the umbilical cord really quick. Even though like you talk about like letting all that blood go back into baby and there's like health benefits, it's supposed to be good for baby. And with my other kids, it always waited, but she didn't. And like seriously, blood just squirted everywhere out of that thing. I was like, oh, I didn't know that happened. So with stuff like that, just be like, remember. And my husband always likes to cut the umbilical cord too. So remember, my husband's gonna cut the umbilical cord, or my mom, or whatever. You have to just remind them of that stuff. And like, oh, don't cut it yet. It doesn't look white. I think it's white or gray. It's supposed to turn. So there's just stuff like that. If you've talked about, like, don't just be like, why didn't this happen? Talk, like, say, like, hey, I want to do the breast crawl. So that usually happens after baby's been delivered, after placenta has come out, and after umbilical cord's been cut. Well, umbilical cord's cut first, and then placenta comes out. Then around that time, they'll usually do a breast crawl before you get your hot shower. I love a hot shower. I like have my husband, he does the kangaroo care with the baby. He like takes off his shirt and sits in a chair and puts baby against his chest. Diaper on baby, they'll put a diaper on baby. And then hot, blanket over baby, and he does like skin to skin. So baby will poop and pee all over you if you don't put a diaper on baby. Just so you know. Even with the breast crawl, like baby will poop and pee all over you as they're nursing if you don't put a diaper on baby. So yeah, put a diaper on. You don't have to ask the nurse. Just be like, husband, get diaper. Mom, get diaper. Sister, get diaper. We're putting it on the baby because I don't want that all over me. I have enough stuff on me as it is. So chest to chest is lovely, and a baby's laying there against you. And some women get amazing, gorgeous, like super happy, excited hormones. If you don't worry. And they're really excited, and it's gorgeous and beautiful. And you put like a hot blanket on baby. They always like warm them up. And then you got baby against you, and it's really beautiful. You can kiss the little baby's head. Let me tell you a trick to get the placenta out if your placenta's not coming out. I had a midwife do this, and it was brilliant. So the one that was like super eager about cutting the umbilical cord was also super eager about me delivering placenta right away. And I was like, oh, I just had baby. Like, can we have a break? But she was like, no, we need placenta out now. I was like, okay. So I've never had a problem delivering a placenta. It is painful. You like lay down back on the bed and you just like push, and like placenta pushes out. But if it's not coming out, because it was not coming out fast enough for her, I went to the bathroom. She's like, just sit on the toilet. And they put like a little bowl underneath the toilet seat. So there's usually, especially in hospitals, they have these little things that hook to like the toilet underneath the seat. That like hooks to the actual toilet, and they measure urine in them. So something like that, they can like hook underneath the toilet seat. So you can sit on the toilet seat and you're not sitting on anything. So she put something there because they want to look at the placenta. They need to observe the placenta and make sure there's not like a big chunk missing, because that means there's a big chunk of placenta in you, and that means you're going to get an infection. Like they're going to have to remove that placenta bit. They can't just leave bits of the placenta, and that's really bad. So she had me sit down on the toilet, push. I was doing that and nothing was happening. And she's like, push your belly in. So I have like, after you have a baby, there's like this floppy belly bit hanging down. It's not very pretty. It's like this excess of belly that's just. So I pushed that in, and placenta fell right out. It was so easy. That's a great trick to know. So if you're like pushing in the bed and the placenta's not coming out and you're really tired, say like, let me sit on the toilet for a minute. So sit on the toilet for a minute. They can put a little bucket there so they can catch the placenta. Bear down, like push down, which by the way, after you have a baby, the last thing you want to do is push again. And having a bowel movement after you've had a baby is like a nightmare. Just so you know, every woman feels that way. It takes a couple of days after baby, and eventually you will be able to like come to grips with the fact that you have to push. Because when you push, it reminds you of pushing during labor. And so you don't want to ever push again. So that's a thing. But and a lot of women have hemorrhoids from pushing. It's really uncomfortable. But eventually you will have to push and have a bowel movement. And it's a traumatizing experience for every woman, just so you know. But anyway, so you're sitting on the toilet and push, and then just push your stomach back in if it's floppy hanging down, and your placenta will come right out. That's a great trick to know, because some women really do have a hard time pushing placenta, especially if you had an epidural. So if you had an epidural, I don't know how you'd walk after an epidural, but have someone help you hobble to the bathroom. because otherwise, if you're not pushing baby and placenta out, I have heard it is horrific. So my sister-in-law said that it was worse than labor and delivery. Like, it was worse than her contractions because they literally lay down on you and like shove. They're like pushing that placenta out, and they like push on your stomach, and it's extremely painful. So if you want to avoid that, try sitting on a toilet and bearing down and pushing belly in to help placenta just come out. Good trick. Let me talk about how to get through these hard contractions. So you're going to need something to help you get through them. So for me, I don't know why this works, but it works really well. It's called counter pressure. Did it with my first, came up with it with my second, and with my third, the midwife was like, "You're weird." What are you doing? I just wanted someone to like help me through it. And so I did what? Like when I was a little kid, my brother would say, you know, you're like, "Oh, I hurt my toe really hurts, my toe really hurts." He's like, "Put out your hand, I'll smash it with a hammer, then your hand will hurt. You won't feel your toe anymore." It's kind of that concept. So when I'm in labor and I'm having the hard contractions, I have my husband squeeze my upper arm, because then I can feel that slight pain and it takes my mind off my contractions. It's called counter pressure. So I think it's kind of similar with your back, like when they're pushing into your back. And I was afraid I'd have like bruises on my arm because I'll be like, squeeze harder, but I haven't had bruises on my arm. That really helps me in labor a lot. Just having like taking my mind off the contractions and feeling something somewhere else. So he squeezes my upper arm when I'm having our contraction. It's kind of something we came up with. It works really well for us. So there's an idea. You can try that. Just look up other ways, like Google. You're not going to know exactly what you want, but it's nice to have like some ideas of ways to help you manage these contractions. I know also people that will like think of certain things or certain people, like maybe people they're like been praying for, they've been thinking about. Those are my thoughts for contractions. I just kind of wanted to explain to you what they were and what they feel like, so you can kind of understand them a bit better. Hope you're having a great time in your pregnancy right now.